in the Jang, who is right now joining us from the UK. And last but not the least, Dr. Bhaskar Das, who is, he needs no introduction, but he is now in a better world called the metaverse. Welcome all. We know what the topic is. The topic is the CEO's Roundtable. That's what the title of the session is. But we know what the issues are, and we know where we are from. We are perhaps entering the fourth wave, as it's being called, and we are looking at a situation where 2 years of the pandemic have happened, and this is perhaps the third year where things have been impacted. Are things on a rollback or not? Are revenues coming in or not? Is the news business looking better than what it was, especially print and digital that we are all with, or is it has it been impacted in a big way by the entire pandemic-led situation where print circulation went down, or in some areas it was almost near extinct here in India, and revenues went down, but things are looking up now. So let's, to kick off this whole thing, I thought it would be a good idea to have opening remarks from each of you, and then we can get into Q&A and discussion amongst ourselves. Can I request Mr. Dhruba Mukherjee to say a few words?
Yeah, thank you so much, Pradyuman. I think you've already set the context. I think wave after wave, and when the first wave came, we knew nothing about surfing. But by the time we are getting into fourth wave, I think we are becoming expert corporate surfers now. But having said that, when you look at any data or metrics compared to when COVID hit us, everything will look very good, positive, and I would say hopeful, simply because COVID was a disaster in terms of business and in terms of the crisis it posed for us. So it almost like was 0 revenue days and 100% costs. So from there, anything that comes back will look good. And we all are in that kind of a situation. So there were challenges on circulation front, the challenges on advertising front. And the best or the worst thing was none of us knew how to react to it, because this was an unprecedented crisis and there were no precedents, there were no case studies to look up to. So all of us were thinking on our feet and kind of through trial and error found our way. I think we are breathing a little easy now, easier than we were at least before, but still it's quite a long way to go. Like doctors say, when you get affected with COVID, there are a lot of health issues that you face, and it takes a long time to recover. And these are very silent health issues. Similarly with business, I think the issues that business face with COVID will take a long-term period to recover. So yeah, advertising is back, but obviously nowhere near a pre-COVID level. A lot of people talk about volumes being back, but for us, when we run a business, values matter. The values are still not there. Circulation, there have been varying degrees of impact across the country. But I think it's much better now. Though again, it's not up to pre-COVID level. The range is anywhere in 75 to 80%. For some, it may be even up to 90%. But that's how it is. And we are hopeful that I think now, as every wave comes, the fear of unknown is not there. I think the fear is out. But it's just that you kind of brace up for what new challenges this wave will bring and how do you respond to that. And I will stop at that and maybe hear the other panelists and come back to you, let everybody get their opinion.
Pradyuman, you're muted. Pradyuman, can't hear you.
Sorry, Dhruba, I'm going to ask you this question. If you were to look at 2019, pre-COVID being 10, what would you say is where we are right now?
So I'd say we are somewhere at 7. If 10 as in you are saying a pre-COVID business level.
That's right.
Yeah. So we would be operating anywhere in the region of, I had 7 or 8. I'll be a little pessimistic, given there's a fourth wave and a fifth wave. I'll stay at 7. So there is room for growth.
7 is not too bad at all. No, Rajeev, over to you. What are your views on the status as it stands today for you as a professional and for Hindustan Times being one of the leading publishers of the country?
So I'll just plagiarize from Dhruba. He said that the fear is no longer there. We are all now mentally tougher and prepared, and that's good. The entire last 2 years helped all of us, sort of adapt fast enough, and there have been collateral benefits. I think all of us worked on productivity improvements. Several of the projects were fast forwarded. Technology was adopted faster, processes were improvised and changed. So lots of several collateral benefits also, but most importantly, like Dhruba said, we are now prepared to face anything. I think we have seen a very different degree of peaks and troughs. It's not as if businesses did not have peaks and troughs earlier, but the cycles have become much shorter now. I think we've all learned to adapt and cope with it well, like I mentioned. So there have been peaks as well in the last 2 years. Festive period was good. There have been a few state elections, good money. So we've all learned to now maximize the peaks and batten down the hatches when there are troughs. We are going through a newsprint pricing trough as of now. So we are figuring out ways to tackle that. But all in all, I think we are in a far better place than we had imagined we will be when the pandemic had started. I think we all have a lot to feel good about as well. And like I said, we are far nimbler now in terms of our belief in being able to tackle all of this going forward.
And Rajeev, what would you say, put the number as? If it was 10 was pre-COVID, where would you say we are now?
I actually will echo Dhruba again. 7 probably. I'll not probably go up to 7 to 8 is where I would also call it. Look, from a business metrics point of view, we are all still behind. But however, from several other health parameters of the business, in terms of, like I said, a leaner organization, a faster, nimbler, cost-efficient organization, we are probably 10 on some of those parameters. So if business comes back, I think we will all be it will stand us in good stead. We'll all be in a far better place in terms of our profitability metrics.
The key words that you said was if business comes back. Sarmad bhai, I'm going to come to you. I know the focus of this session is more on South Asia, but when we have stalwarts from India, the discussion would tend to veer around the country. But give us the scene from your point of view. How is it in Pakistan, and what is the way things are through these last 2 years and now?
As Rajeev also said, the fear is no longer there. But that's about it. The fear is no longer there, but what happened in the last 2 years is something that we were not prepared for, and it was something that we had never experienced before. Advertising was hit badly. The first few months, advertising was practically zero. And the circulations went down by something like 30 to 35%, to 30 to 35%. And on top of it, we had a government which did not believe in advertising. For a lot of newspapers in Pakistan, government advertising, or in India, government advertising plays a major role. In our case, it was 25% of our revenues came from government advertising. And with the government that we had did not believe in advertising. So they had cut down their advertising by almost 60%. So government advertising had gone down. Generally, advertising went down in COVID period, and circulations were hit by 30%. If you're going to ask me where we are, I would say we are at 6. On a scale of 10, we are at 6. Circulations haven't really come back. I heard that 80% or 90% circulations are coming back in India. In Pakistan, circulations haven't really come back. We are at best, we have gained back about 5%, 6% of what we lost, and we're still struggling to get circulations back. Advertising is coming back. Government advertising, we believe, will go up. Commercial advertising has improved in the last year or so. primarily behind the fact that the fear is no longer there and people, advertisers want to spend. So that's a good sign. And the another positive sign is that the new government that has come in place believes in advertising and wants to help the newspaper industry and the media industry, and they are talking to the newspaper publishers, the newspaper society, to restart advertising in a way that could actually be helpful. The other thing that had happened was that the government in Pakistan, government advertising, the payments for government advertising normally takes 3 to 4 years, and at times it's more than 5 even. And with change of government, the dues of the previous government are stuck, and so the last government was not inclined to make payments previous government, and that a huge amount was stuck. So that is what we went through. So we're not out of the woods as they say yet. I think we will probably in the next few months we knew where we stand. It could be there are some major by-elections that are taking place in Punjab that would help us in terms of advertising. But next year could be a better year because that would be an election year for us. So let's see. That's where we stand today.
Thank you, Sarmad bhai, for your views.
Hello.
I think we've lost him. Dr. Das, you are now a kind of an outsider in the news business. And
I don't know whether you heard me or not, because there was a forum.
We heard you. We heard the main part of your thing, and we heard it to the end. Thank you. Yes, Dr. Das, you are an outsider to the news business. I can see you smiling. Is that smile because you are listening to the scores that people are saying and how things are, or is it because you are generally happy with the way things have been?
No. See, there are a number of aspects. Smelling coffee. If you choose not to smell coffee, that's a different thing. But I'm an outsider insider. Please understand, my 42 years of life, 33 years was in print. Second thing is, so print is my first love, and I still believe print as a future. But I'll make some comments. This is no disrespect to anyone. I know I'm not the owner. I'm not the big bosses that the others are sitting. Fact remains that we think we're in newspaper business. I think that's the major problem which Theodore Levitt talked about, marketing myopia. So it is an attribution myopia. If it would have been in news business, life would have been slightly better, perhaps, in spite of COVID. So if you look at it, so that is one aspect. So that's a sector, that's a segment issue. Then there is a sectoral issue. Then there is a derived business issue. Then there is a consumer culture, consumer behavior change issue. And then there is, of course, you have COVID, health issues, you have inflation issues, stagflation, as they say now, as it is looming large, and finally the geopolitical uncertainties. So things will come and go like this. But one recent incident, I was blown. It only confirms my conviction in the print. A newspaper called Washington Post, which has been taken over some time back by the Amazon man, Jeff Bezos. They have introduced a subscription scheme for half a century of today's price. For the next 50 years, they would be charging $8. Now, you can say they must be mad. How do you calculate inflation? But if you look at the strategy of that man, because he's making money in clouds, he doesn't have to make money here. And if I remember a news item, they made profit after perhaps 33 years. And I remember a presentation in a newspaper conference where how it's a data literate newsroom and how AI ML is leading news selection and consumer interactivity. So so I thought that this incident is very critical, that for 50 years, one cover price with a guarantee. So they are taking care of not only current generation, they're showing their conviction in the medium, conviction in print, even also catching the new age readers who are perhaps not yet born. So this only proves that newspaper matters. Today, I think newspapers have never been more useful. In the age of WhatsApp University, in the age of fake news, in the age of user-generated content, newspaper is the only island of credibility because they get 24 hours. Not that they want to be credible. Problem is no one is investing in journalism the way perhaps Economist or Wall Street Journal or Financial Times have been doing. And they have got their online readers, whether it's a premium or whether it's a paid model, they are under paywall. India, we have started it, but people lose readers. New York Times also lost readers there, but today their digital revenue is equal, if not more than the print revenue. And so is the case with Economist. So I have a feeling it's a question of business model issue also, that is it time to revisit or rather question the business model of the leading newspaper in this country, which everyone is waiting for to take action. I sometimes feel shortchanged. I read the paper. Everyone has increased cover price. Today's page level in Bombay for the leading paper is 14 pages. It was the same page level when I joined the industry 42 years back. Do I feel shortchanged? I don't know, but it is. I don't feel same thing with New York Times, which is $2.50, or Wall Street Journal. So that is one part of the issue. Second thing, COVID. I agree. Regional newspapers are doing perhaps better than in non-metros, tier 2, tier 3 town, better than English, but still English is the business language. English is status statement. English makes a difference. But do we attract talent? Everyone is managing the middle line. Up to a point, middle line management is all right. You can reduce cost, you can reduce staff, you can reduce something, but the meta line in the industry, if you look at it, anyone who have got a post-2000 born kid or a post-90 born kid, their media habits are different. They're not seeing TV also, incidentally. So they're not seeing TV, they're seeing everything is streaming. They are choosing, they're going by recommendation like Netflix, Amazon. So if you look at them not as staccato activities, but as certain trends of behavior of the new generation, how are we adjusting to the new generation? They also need credibility, incidentally. So the question is, people have invested in digital. There's no doubt about it, but obviously it doesn't make money like print, or initially it loses money. And today, Google and others who are taking news, daily hunts and all that, they're surviving on a Hindustan Times, they're surviving on ABP, they're surviving on Times of India, Dainik Bhaskar, whatever. But that's the algorithm, that's the use, that was the arrangement. We have given away everything to them. But fact remains that they're surviving and making money there and giving 10%, if not less, to the publishers. One thing is very clear, the content is valuable. Only thing, if we add to, if we invest in the journalists rather than only in salespeople, invest in journalists, invest in brand building, and of course, which includes in a ubiquitous world, I think print has a huge future. Anyway, top 15 newspapers controls perhaps 90% of the profit of the industry. So I think 1 lakh newspapers don't matter. Print is not doing bad. It's not about 7, 8. Pradyuman, I personally feel even in these circumstances, print is rocking. And even today, people go to print to check, is it trustworthy, or 409 news channels which are trustworthy? Yes, there is something additional point I missed out, is state surveillance. So the so-called independence maintenance is a huge task. You will miss government ads, though they give piddly rates as well as piddly and of course high lead time for high lead time for recovery. But fact remains, to my mind, print is very strong. It's still not yet late. It can rock. Only thing that the mix of advertising to subscription or subscription to advertising needs to change by investing in content, investing in journalism, and investing in a ubiquitous medium in terms of technology, data literate, newsroom, and everything, which definitely, I know Hindustan Times did it quite some time back, but I'm talking that even ABP has done it. But I think it is still nothing compared to what other big players are doing in the digital space. If you look at it, some of the subscription-driven websites, I'm talking about Where, Scroll, Caravan, as well as Ken. Today, they're surviving on these donations, but fact remains they have got great journalist writing who today are not in the mainstream, who can take on the system, which other newspapers may not be able to take on. If you take on the system, there are challenges. So the credibility of newspaper, even today, any research is done, I'm convinced newspaper is number one. Television comes later, digital is lower. So I am very optimistic about print, at least in India, but the business model recalibration can take print to new heights. And in this age of lack of credibility, lack of trust, print is the only oasis. But only thing is, even the oasis has to be nurtured. Sorry, it was more than an initial comments. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Of course, some of these views are easier to do now that you are out of print. But I guess since you have an insider's perspective,
incidentally, I always believed in it, but I was never the owner.
Well, anyway, let's leave it at that. I'm going to come to you, Rajeev, to ask you a little about the past, because we really don't know. We're talking about the fourth wave. We don't know what's happening. Give us a view of how did you brace yourself? How did Hindustan Times brace yourself in this in the pandemic period, so that you are kind of ready for any eventuality in future? What were the learnings for you?
Okay. Look, I think when it first hit us, I think the top priority that we had was our employee well-being. So I think we initially spent a lot of time in making sure that we were looking after the well-being of people. And of course, the entire working model underwent a huge change for everybody, not just us, right? So the entire country. So some of the things happened faster. Therefore, some of the things were brought forward. So the entire adoption of technology, because everybody was working from home. So the adoption of these were the collateral benefits of let's say COVID. So the technology got adopted faster. Something that may have happened 2-3 years later happened in 2020. Process redesigns happened again to improve productivity and processes. So those are again some of the other good things. People learned to operate without having to have large office spaces. So which is why, as I said, the one benefit is that the overall operating model is far more efficient now. So if we were to have this level of efficiency back then our business results would be something else. So it brought in a lot of belief, I think, across on things that can be done and accomplished. It's just that it's unfortunate that COVID made us do all of that, but that happened. Some of the other things that we did was, like I said, adoption of technology. We went behind a paywall as well. We continued to, of course, invest in products. So we had a relaunch of HT, we had a relaunch of Hindustan as well. But at the same time, we continued to invest on a digital asset. So again, some of those investments were also brought forward. Something that may have happened later, we adopted it faster. So those are the other things that we did. And like I mentioned earlier, there continued to be opportunities in between. It's not as if it's not as if we had a lean period throughout. So there were windows of opportunity. Festive was good. Some elections happened, and economy also rebounded in between briefly. So all of us have learned to now manage those business cycles better compared to earlier. So those are, I think, some of the things that we had to do. We had to look at cover prices. So again, some of the things that may not have happened naturally, which are the right things for business, we did early enough. So cover prices were taken up across our digital websites, went behind a paywall. Technological investments happened faster, and that's how we've managed to sort of cope in this last 2 years, and which is why I said I believe that we are far nimbler now. I think it applies to all of us.
You mentioned about well-being. The word that you used was well-being, but what we also saw happening in this industry was was right sizing, was rationalization of operations. And obviously there was a lot of stress in the systems because offices were shut, editions were suspended, and all of that. Now, did that have a huge impact for you? And has that impact been there till date? Because if supposing you were to offer a job in a newspaper business right now, people will think twice because you never know whether you're going to. There's a permanency in it.
So actually, okay, we were a little fortunate because we have multimedia assets. So we have very strong and large digital assets. We have radio assets, and we have a few other businesses also. So yes, some of those things did happen. However, we were able to redeploy. For example, the strength of a digital organization today is, I think, almost 3 to 4 times what it was pre-COVID, incidentally, right? So we were able to largely ride through it because we were also investing in some of our businesses. So for us, I think the impact was not as much as it may have been elsewhere, largely because of our presence in multimedia assets. Pradyuman.
Yeah, thank you very much. Dhruba, I'm going to ask you, in these last 2 years that we've had the pandemic and the way the business has been, what, according to you, was the turning point when you realized that, yes, well, we are all, that what has happened in the past has happened, and now it's going to be smooth sailing, or we will not see whatever has happened in the past happening again?
Pradyuman, to be very honest, I don't think we have ever gone through that realization. I mean, every time we felt it's going to turn, we again saw a setback coming, right? So pretty much by January of 2021, when we were looking at maybe things settling down after, as Rajeev said, a good festive, then again, the third wave, a second wave came in April, May, then again a third wave in Jan, June, and then now maybe a fourth wave in August. So it's been a very bumpy ride. I can't say right now, standing here, we feel that it's going to be smooth sailing. It's not. But as Rajeev rightly pointed out, that we feel now it's going to be the order of the day. There won't be any smooth sailing, at least for in the near term. There's going to be turbulent waters, and we need to just learn to navigate the ship accordingly. So what COVID helped us, because our back was against the wall, in April, May, when the lockdown happened. And as I said, there were 0 revenue days, which we're seeing on newspapers going without any advertising whatsoever, is to completely reimagine the way we do business. And we didn't have an option. So as Bhaskar was saying, that whole revenue model came under scrutiny. So a lot of the players, including us, we used to run subscription schemes where we used to, offer newspapers at a discount to our readers. It was a hard call. I mean, we decided to withdraw those schemes from the market and say, like, okay, really, we always had this question that will readers pay for good content? Will readers pay for right content? We all believed we created good content, but we never probably had that strength of conviction to try it out by stopping all subscription schemes and asking the reader to pay full price. But COVID helped us do that. And we were lucky to come out unscathed. And then it also gave a huge amount of confidence to the team and to the organization that, yes, you turn out the right content, people will probably pay you the full price. You don't have to go and fight a subscription war with someone else. So that corrected the revenue model. The reason I gave 7 is because we were able to cut down costs by having more conviction in what we do. Which is what Bhaskar was alluding, that most newspaper companies probably don't have convictions on themselves, that what they do is probably worth far more than what they're getting from the market. So that was one which really helped us. It also helped us take a lot of hard look at a lot of operations and businesses that we did. Most of us here are legacy companies, more than 100-year-old or nearly 100-year-old. So a lot of time complacency sets in. Some things are continuing because for the last 20 years it has happened that way. So it was a time to sit back and say, like, can we afford to continue this? Or do we need to shut down a few businesses or close down a few operations? Or is this particular plant viable? Or do we need to continue or just, shut it off? Those were calls which we took within, almost, I would say 1 week to 10-day kind of a window, which probably we never did for the last 50 years. So that also, when you look back on hindsight and it paid off, give you conviction. And as we hit fourth wave, fifth wave, we know that, these decisions are often a gamble, but it's a calculated risk and it pays off. That's something which we are, I'd say we are more confident as an organization today than we were probably before COVID hit us. And thirdly, I think it also helps you think on how you can optimize your processes. I mean, often we had silos. We had teams working on similar things, but under different verticals and different heads and different names. And COVID kind of, because you needed to optimize resources, forced us to say, are there synergies which you can leverage? The questions which we never asked before, because those teams were happily working in various places. So that again is something, the collateral benefits, as Rajeev said, of COVID was to break down those silos and say like, okay, can these two teams come together and give a bigger impact, which helps us to at least recover and retain some of the revenue that we were earning in the past. And we were able to do that. So we were merging on the ad sales front, teams who were selling dailies and who were selling magazines. We were optimizing them. We were integrating team who were selling radio. And we said, can dailies, magazine, radio all be one team, and so on and so forth. And we saw a lot of benefits out of that. And the biggest one, which again, Rajeev talked about, was going into work from home. And we went into work from home as a necessity, as we didn't have an option. The whole country was in a lockdown and health was absolutely the top priority for all of us, of our employees, of our readers and everything. And so we went into work from home. But when we went into work from home, the first priority was to make it work. So yeah, enable everybody with technology so their work doesn't stop, they can work from home. Our entire editorial people started releasing pages that nobody came into office. Everything was done out of home. And we wondered for the last 100 years, we could never imagine us, releasing pages and making a paper with no editorial people in the office. But it's a reality, it happened. And then when that happened, we realized that why do we ever need to go back? So even in the last, even today, VP is working on a work from home mode. We have not gone back to office. So that we don't have any temptations to go back to offices, we gave up our offices in Bombay, Delhi. So there is never a temptation to go back. And we realized that it's a process that works brilliantly for both business as well as editorial. And so all I'm saying is everything, it is a crisis. COVID was a crisis. But now when I look back, I think COVID was also an opportunity. And I think we all talk about resilience and all that. Yeah, we had to show resilience to face COVID. But I think that resilience was also not just to show resilience, but to grow out of it. And I think all of us, I think as an industry, we grew massively out of this COVID experience, and we are much better off than we were before. And so, yeah, if there's a turning point, I would say the turning point is to, let's say, it's a cliche, but it's to say the turning point is that ability to believe that you can disrupt yourself. And still come out more strong and good, rather than wait for somebody else to come and disrupt us. So I think now we are getting to that.
Many critics of our newspaper business do say that yes, you use this as an opportunity because there were businesses and editions, etc., which were unprofitable, and everybody used this as an opportunity to dispense with them. And perhaps also, staff there. But to the point of what Dr. Bhaskar was mentioning about are newspapers looking at themselves in a different way? Are they, looking at themselves as people in the business of news? Are you looking at reinventing? For instance, the Telegraph as an English paper has amazing content, and it has a very differentiated page one and even some of the in-depth stories. But what stops a Telegraph from having a Ken or a morning context like subscription newsletter service, looking at news in a different way?
No, nothing. I completely agree that nothing should stop us, and you never know, we may in the near future. You're absolutely right. And Bhaskar said, I couldn't agree more, that I think we all started looking at our businesses on a much wider horizon than we were doing. Whether we should have done that 20 years back, we can go on debating, but we can't go back 20 years now. So I really can't. I hope Bhaskar was the owner and not an MD, and he could have done some of those things. But the fact is, he didn't, and we are merely, I would say, juniors who have come into the industry after Bhaskar was following his footsteps, and we continue doing the same thing. But to say that, whether, as you correctly give a telegraph example, but I think what we are looking at more now as we are no longer a newspaper business. And I think we are looking at, as you pointed out, more as a content business. Whether I won't even say news media, I would say we are content. And that content can be across platforms and across environments and in various forms, in the form of a newsletter, or whether in form of a purely research content, or whether in form of a reference content, or whatever be it. So I think the whole focus for all of us, I know whether it's HT, or I'm sure Sarmad Bhai will also agree, across the world, we are seeing this pivoting of happening from newspaper business to content business, and people are exploring adjacency, where you can take your strong content. All of us churn out strong content, and we know the big tech today is surviving on that content. But I think the realization has come for us now is how can we diversify? How can we exploit the adjacencies that are there around this content in order to build new business streams for us, and hence change that revenue model which Bhaskar talked about, and not be dependent on advertising anymore. Yes, advertising will continue to play a big game, but can paid content and paid at a proper price, along with advertising, create a new business model for us across streams? And that's something we are all exploring, and we will continue to roll out a lot of initiatives which you will see in the near future around this.
Pradyuman, in the spirit of discussion, may I ask both Dhruba as well as our friend Rajeev Beotra, that do you think in the age of AI, ML-led, so much of decision making, performance marketing, and programmatic buying, lack of data affects print to some extent? I know that empirical evidence works in your favor. ABP is number one, HTTOI number one in Bombay, HT in Delhi, or whatever. But point is, still there is no data. People just go by something which happened 3 years back. Is the lack of data of readership or immersion, should there be rethinking? I know this is Pradyuman's question, cannot be my question, but I'm very curious to know that if the data would have been there, would you have done better?
Yeah, so look, first of all, we are not a newspaper organization. So in this forum, whatever I've been saying is from a perspective of actually a media organization, a multimedia organization, number one. So incidentally, we are already building and investing heavily in our first party data ourselves. Our digital business has been doing well. It has grown multifold in the last 2-3 years. And we are investing very heavily, actually. That's number one. The other thing that we did was we have integrated our sales organization. We don't actually have a print sales organization any longer. We have a ad sales organization. So what we are trying to do, and maybe we are ahead, and we are hoping that the entire ecosystem, agencies and clients will also move that way soon enough for a one-stop shop, one per fellow, going and actually selling data, because print also delivers something, right? Whether people come to print for impact or credibility or whatever it is, but that's also a part of the solution to a problem.
But Rajeev, if I may interject, so you are saying,
yeah,
you have done that in the other formats of media. So there you are metrics driven, and agencies still buying print as print, and there is an reach OTS being calculated. So IRS is now defunct, no longer IRS will come out.
No, so it will come out soon as well. So I think print will continue to have some metric. At this point in time, it is.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I'm not debating that. So I think print does have IRS as its current metric, and it's important. But what I'm trying to say is when we go and sell solutions to an advertiser's problem, so print offers something, digital offers something, and over a period of time, we want to be in a place where we can offer. We don't want to approach him as a print organization or a digital organization, but as salespeople who can address their problems. We are a far cry from it as of now. As I said, the entire ecosystem needs to change.
Are revenues coming in from digital for y'all? Are news publishers making enough money from digital? Because from what I gather, one of the problems which is there is that the money's come for print, but not really for the digital avatars of publications.
No, that's not true. We are growing outstandingly well on our digital revenues. Of course, they are still smaller than our print revenues. They're lower than our print revenues ever now, but growing much faster. And but print still is contributing largely to our overall.
No, but isn't it, Rajeev? Rajeev, isn't it that it's a duopoly when it comes to digital revenue? The two guys, Google and Facebook, or Alphabet and Facebook, or Meta, they are cornering 85%. All of us, I mean, the newspaper as well as television, whatever digital they do, they are in the 15% player. Finish. There is no discussion on the subject. We survive on them. So there is network selling and all that. So you don't get actual organic price. So that's what I think what Pradyuman was referring to.
Yeah, that's true. That's true today. Let's see how. It's a very disruptive space. So whether it will stay like this a few years down the line, we don't know. There have been changes in some other parts of the world. Let's see what this landscape will look like a few years down the line. But that's certainly true today. But it still is large enough. You know, that opportunity, digital opportunity, even with that 20% or whatever, is still large enough for us to have a meaningful play in today. But as I said, it's a very dynamic, disruptive medium. What it will be 2-3 years down the line will be very different from what it is today. I'm sure about that.
I'm going to come to Sarmad about looking at the way things are in Pakistan, and you of course spoke about the fact that circulation hasn't really gone back to what you were earlier. That also stems from the fact that you have a cover price which is much higher than what is there in India, and so people have to pay the right value for the newspaper. But what do you see as a future for a newspaper group like yourselves, and and for the rest of the country, where things are so impacted by you already have a political system which has an impact on newspapers. You have a health scenario which has an impact. So where do you see the future for a business like yours?
I think what has happened in the last 2 years is that we have moved from being used to working in silos to integration.
Sarmad, can you speak a little louder? Can you speak a little louder? We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, better now.
Okay. What I was saying was that in the last 2 years, what we've done is that we've moved from being working in silos to integration. And we have a very large print assets, and we have very large television assets and digital assets. So we've moved towards integration. We've started integrating editorial. We've started integrating sales, and
Sorry, we are losing his voice.
Sans HR organizations that all of them are now coming together. So we no longer a television organization as a multimedia.
I'm not able to hear Sarmad bhai. Can you hear Rajeev?
No,
No, it's not audible.
It's not audible at all. I guess he has a weak connection.
I'm back now. Yeah. So we're integrating now, and I think we think that that's the way forward. There are issues, of course. I think the agencies will have to get used to buying solutions and to being one-stop shops. We are no longer. We used to go and sell print. We used to go and sell television and digital as standalone opportunities. Now we have to integrate them and sell them as unified opportunities. There are issues. I think print we have a bigger issue because print there is no audience measurement as such. You get a newspaper readership survey done every 2 years, and that's about it. I think that's not only something which is specific to Pakistan. I think that is something which is being faced by most markets. And I think we need to work something out there. Maybe there's a need to do something on monthly basis where we can start creating some kind of a rating system for the newspapers as well, where not on a daily basis or at least on a monthly basis, where data is available, so that it becomes easier for agencies to make their decisions. Measurement has been a very big issue for newspapers, and I think it will continue to be unless we change the model. The other thing is that newspapers are not considered sexy. They're not considered sexy by the younger audiences, the younger generation. So we need to become relevant to them. We need to create content that is relevant for them. The problem is that we are creating content which is not relevant for them. I don't see the younger generation being platform centric. I look at them as being content centric. If we are giving the right content, they will come and pick up the newspaper. They see that content in. That has been our biggest problem. We have to reinvent ourselves. We have to start talking to the people, to the audiences that we've not been talking to for a long time. The third thing is, yes, pricing. Cover pricing has been a major issue for us. I think the both sides, the Indian model and the Pakistani model, are two extremes. The Indian model probably is too low, and the Pakistani model, I think, is too high. We have to find a way somewhere in between. However, we sell a 16-page newspaper for 20 rupees, and with the newsprint prices going up, we're looking at
right.
2 to 5.
20 rupees for a 16-page paper. My God, that's big one.
That's the pricing model in India also. We have to find something in between the two models.
Right. Thank you, Sarmad bhai. Sorry, some connectivity issues were there.
Yeah.
Rajeev and Dhruba, the newsprint challenge, and Rajeev, you mentioned about the newsprint prices going up. How do you, we keep talking about various other parts of the business, but the basic raw material that goes into the newspaper is newsprint. How do you brace yourself for that? Is that
hedging?
Yes.
That's a tool which has been used in the past. However, none of us have been prepared for this, I must say, and I'm sure Dhruva can add this particular newsprint has always been a cycle. This particular cycle has been a bit unique. We are all, I think, at this point in time with our backs against the wall. So
I know, Pradyuman will be angry that I'm like some news anchors. I come and interfere, but I just can't. Since both of you, Dhruva as well as Rajeev, you people are in content business. Are journalists get more salary than the ad department?
Sorry, come again. We missed you.
I said that
journalists getting more salaries than the ad department.
Who gets more?
Journalists.
Yeah. Some of them get much more than the ad department.
Then you are an exception, I must say.
In our case, there are some who get much more. See, there are work levels at every department, so I can't compare at every level. But
I'm not comparing at every level. Obviously, not possible. The editor may be more, but will the president or head of sales and the head of
equivalent people, editor, they are at par or.
I can see Rajeev smiling there. Rajeev,
look, I can't comment, but if I have to take the sample of one, which is myself, I'll say editorial gets paid better than salespeople.
Oh, that's fantastic. Then it's okay.
No, I'm just kidding.
It was not in the leading newspaper.
No, Bhaskar, it's a demand supply thing. To be very honest, you'd probably agree with me that today the content people are in high demand. And not just from the newspaper industry. Today content demand, thanks to the digital explosion, No,
Yeah,
many of them are going in as script writers for OTT platforms. I mean, there's a huge amount of demand, and they're
I
like
agree. I fully
sought
agree.
after. So, people like Rajeev and me are dispensable. There are like 10 other people who can come in and fill our places, but they are in great demand.
I can't say that about
and
you.
the biggest problem which all of us know is there are some people who can also come back from retirement.
Yeah.
Anyway, there are questions from the audience that have come in. One of them is, with the plan for the future, what is the plan of, I've kind of discussed this, but what is the plan of news media on hiring? We've had huge layoffs in the past, in the pandemic, and what talent news media is looking for the future. In the context of what Dhruba just mentioned about people going in for other streams, content stream, but let's face it, Rajeev, all newspapers did sack a lot of people, and they did sack a lot of journalists. A lot of other people also went out. So clearly there is stress on talent, and the talent is stressed that perhaps this is not the medium to be in.
That's not sacking, that's right sizing.
Yeah, that's right. You see, a lot of people do not find newspapers sexy, so they obviously do not want to work for newspapers. That's also a very big issue.
Yeah, well, I agree, but there was a time when people were secure about their jobs. For instance, I'm sure people who got into working with an ABP or a Hindustan Times or a Times of India or wherever else, thought that they would perhaps retire from the organization, but that's not to be right now.
Look, that's not true for any industry.
Yeah.
That's not true. It's a
Yeah.
different world now. I don't think the media industry or the newspaper industry or any such thing has to be single. It's true for the world in general. Those
Reality is over.
Yeah, those days of a job being available for life, those days are gone across. I mean, all industries actually. More so in actually several other industries. In fact, if anything, if you ask me, print is far more stable now. It's very difficult to find talent for print now.
Oh, I agree with you. There's a question from the audience. The biggest challenge for digital is creating trust. Because of social media, digital is struggling to establish its identity and trust. Is it any idea to create trust from a digital perspective? Is there any idea that you have that? Dr. Das, would you like to take that? Because now you are.
No, I agree that digital's biggest challenge is that everyone is a creator, and there is no time for verification. So we only upload videos which after that is proved to be wrong, and they can be doctored. Print gets time for 24 hours, and there is a basic culture of verification of facts. Print's DNA is that they verify facts. Today, no one has time to have facts. I don't want to quote any example. Renowned journalists in television have put fake videos. They didn't want to put it. They saw it. I have to break this story. Print cannot break story. Print break into stories. And when you break into stories, it's more about upgrading than updating. So I have a feeling digital will take a lot of time because it is too much democratized, and as a result, trust is something that you have to earn. You cannot demand. So digital, while it has the advantage of anytime, anywhere, and real-time news breaking, the real casualty has been credibility, because there is no time to verify.
Dr. Das, I'm sorry to interrupt. Interruption is a regular thing on television. Do you the fact of the matter is that despite peddling fake stuff, consumption of news channels hasn't really gone down considerably. I know television has gone down the viewership, but news channels are still flourishing despite peddling.
No, you have wrong information. I can tell you one thing, that as it is anyway, it is 7-8% of the total universe of television consumption today. And you look at the cohort of audience that is there, who is watching television today. People have cut the cord. They are going into an OTT much more than the growth is much faster. So news television consumption has come down, and it is totally 100% dependent on advertising, most of them. I don't think credibility they can match the credibility of print. You look at any latest research, I remember, print is #1 in credibility and trust.
This is from someone who's spent some years in television, in news television in the recent past. Obviously, this means a lot. I'm going to. We are at 5:15 almost, and we need to close. But I'm just going to ask for some closing remarks from all of you. Sarmad bhai, first from you. Is it, as they say in India, "Achhe din aane wale hain ki nahi"? Are we going to see the good times in the near future?
I think yes, but we have to get used to work in an environment which is a multimedia environment. I think the media consumer ka jo consumption life cycle hai, for 24 hours. So in that 24 hours, we have to make a place for ourselves. He will read a newspaper, he will read a magazine, he will watch television, he will browse digital, he will listen to radio. So we do not have that 100% of that bandwidth anymore, or even 90% or 80%. We need to understand that. We need to understand that our share in that total bandwidth will be reduced. And so obviously we have to get used to it. We are no longer the kings that we were. So अच्छे दिन उस perspective से आएंगे. So if we understand that, and if we take that into consideration, and we accept that we are just one of the players and not the major player and not the only player, then I think we will be able to keep everything in perspective.
Dhruba, over to you. What is your view?
No, I just think at a very general level, they say hope is not a strategy, but hope is a great motivator. So I certainly live on hope, and I think a little bullish right now, looking at the fundamentals, because we all made fundamental corrections in our model. I think we have a positive outlook for print in general, or for content as a business.
The bottom line for a publisher like yourself is, so how would be Puja advertising. So how is Puja 22 looking?
It's just got a United Nations World Heritage tag. So I hope the advertising will also get a United Nations World Heritage kind of level. So we are hoping for the best.
Rajeev, your closing remarks.
No, I mean, I'm also an optimist, diehard one. So I think, however, I do think that volatility will continue. So I think it's more about being able to identify those opportunities will keep coming. Like for Dhruba, Puja will certainly be a great opportunity. So it will eventually boil down to how well can we maximize these opportunities, which will keep coming. And people have done that in the last 2 years also. I think that's how it will be for a while. But like I said, I think we're all ready and prepared now, and far more agile to be able to maximize some of those.
Dr. Das, I'm not going to ask you for closing comments, but a little different. The people who are watching this are all people who are part of the ecosystem, the news ecosystem. If I were to ask you to make an elevator pitch to somebody about the news business and why she or he should be joining this news business, what would it be? Your time.
News and sports are the only real time. Everything else is fiction. So that is the importance of news. Second important part is that news is consumed in a ubiquitous way. So you have to think complementary. Means whoever is the owner of newspapers, think complementary. And how do you survive in a complementary world? So there's no use competing for breaking stories. That's why I said you break into stories, upgrade. Third is that businesses don't die, business models die. And third is, if you're in content business, if you get into a 65-35, 65 subscription, 35 advertising, no amount of advertisers derived business or surveillance, or no amount of state surveillance can stop your independence. So long you can maintain quality and independence, print has a fantastic future. In fact, it will increase only because of the fact that that those 15 newspapers in this country, people look up to, and even today, in the online, Google everything, they refer to a Times of India, Hindustan Times, Telegraph, or for that matter, ABP, or some of the regional newspapers. They are still dependent on that for verification, because today there is surfeit of content. But what is the poverty is the poverty of attention and poverty of trust. These two poverties print has to address. And if they're stuck to the business model, it's not going to work.
Thank you very much. I think on that note, we can call this session to a close. I must tell you a little about, when I got into journalism 36 years back, I had the option of joining a B school to which I had got admission. And I was then talked out of it by the great Arun Shuri, who was the editor of the Indian Express then. And he said, "What the hell are you doing and going to a B school? Just be in journalism. This is more fun." And well, that was the second last time I met him. I didn't really meet him after that. But somewhere along the line, when marketers started dominating the newsroom, I wondered whether it was a better idea to get into. I should have done a B school degree as against got into journalism. But having said that, I must say that there's no better throbbing career than being in the media. We have a host of people who have moved into the media from other industries, and we all know that. And I think on that note, and the fact that there is a fair degree of optimism, we've learned from the past, we've learned from our mistakes, we've right-sized, we've rationalized, we've done all of that, and clearly the message is that yes, we need to reinvent, and if we do that, it will be good times. No pun intended. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pradeep.
Thank you. Bye.